Today's guest is Susan Power, who is the founder and CEO of PowerUp Leadership. PowerUp focuses on empowering teams to realize their potential through leadership development, coaching, and talent roadmaps. So, Susan, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
Hi, Drasko. Thank you for having me. Doing well and yourself?
I'm doing pretty good myself. I'm excited to dive into this with you because I always love it when coaches are on here because it's easy to say that you coach, but it's a lot harder to kind of walk that talk, especially publicly. So I always
Mhm.
appreciate that sentiment. So yeah, I mean, listen, I know you're always focused on helping other people and supporting other people. So I know you filled out our assessment and stuff prior to us getting onto this call. So long story short, how can I best support you today?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed going through your assessment. It was very thorough. And I guess because I am a leadership coach, PowerUp Leadership is the name of my firm. I'm constantly training and coaching others to upskill their leadership. But I was thinking about this the other day. I need to spend more time doing the same for myself, for my team. And this is a good opportunity to kind of dive into that.
Okay, perfect. So I know when you went through the stress driver assessment prior to this, which for anybody else listening, so this is kind of the basic assessment that I walked through to see, okay, what basically like what is driving the profit and time leaks or the business problems that you might be having right now from the perspective of like how am I contributing to them? Okay, so when you got through that, you identified kind of two main things. One was I have trouble letting go of control in certain areas, and then there was a lot of these narratives around fear, right? Especially kind of taking risks and playing bigger. So that's
Mhm.
kind of what I
Yeah.
had gotten from what you contributed initially. Why don't you kind of give me a little bit more context on how that manifests for you?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So, uncertain times, I'm a big believer that there's always opportunities and people get into like doom and gloom mindset of, oh no, the tariffs are going to destroy small business. I don't prescribe to that philosophy. That being said, I do feel like any business owner, the stresses of the market and my tendency whenever I feel that pressure of I want to make payroll for the team and I don't want to go into my operating say my saved money that I have for operating expenses. So my tendency is to just work, like just hunker down and work so hard that it's almost ridiculous. And I do that because it relieves anxiety. I think if I'm just like, I'll just outwork any problem.
Okay, got it. So just kind of broadly speaking, then, whenever there's an issue, my default pattern is to like just outwork that issue because that will relieve my anxiety. So why is that a problem? Like, let's just say it seems to be working for you. So why is that actually a problem for you?
It's a problem for me because I don't like think it's always as intentional. And I think people need to reset and relax to show up as their best selves, right? So, like last week, for instance, I was working pretty much every night till I went to bed, and I just don't like I don't want to live my life that way. I don't think you need to as an entrepreneur. It's fine to work hard, but I just I don't know. I just know it's a bad cycle to get into, and that's not how I want to live my life.
Okay. So a part of me doesn't want to spend my whole life working. And then another part of me is kind of in conflict with that and understands that, well, I get very anxious if I'm not working and there's always problems to solve. So I have to keep working in order to do that. And it seems like the anxious part wins over more than the, whatever you want to call it, more temperate part. Is that accurate?
I think so. Yeah, it's a good way to summarize it. And I feel like I can maintain control better. Like I don't like things out of my control, even flying. Like I'm so scared when I'm in an airplane because I'm not flying the plane. It's probably a good thing I'm not because I'm not a pilot, but it's just that lack of control. So if turbulence hits, AKA the tariffs right now, it kind of feels the same to me as when I'm on an airplane. I just feel like, okay, this is not safe. I need to just like figure this out and just drive this forward and get the next big contract signed. Like I feel that pressure and it makes me feel better to work. So it kind of relieves it a little bit in a way.
Got it. So it seems like what is driving a lot of your decisions, a lot of the actions that you're taking is basically this anxiousness to constantly feel in control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if that is the main driver behind the majority of the decisions, and also it's actually the driver behind a lot of the success you've already had, right? Because I'm assuming that's how you built the business that you have right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think yeah, it's a bit of a double-edged sword because I've had this business for 7 years. We're growing 20% year over year. I have a team that works with me, and you do need to let go more when you have a team because you're giving, more client work to them to do, but it's very hard to let go. But for me, it is at least.
Right. Because letting go would mean I actually give up control. And control is the thing that has both gotten me all of the success and it also tends to relieve the anxiety that I feel moment to moment.
Yep, that's true. Yeah.
Okay. So I see kind of okay, like you're laughing at that and I get it because I was reflecting it back, but is that something that is a new awareness for you, or I've kind of already always known this, but I just don't really know what to do about it? Like where are you at on that scale?
Y- I think you helped me make a new connection with the fact that it has served me well, like in my career and as a business owner. I, I think it's helped me be successful in finding opportunities, but kind of what gets us to one level isn't going to be necessarily the winning solution to get us to the next level. And that's kind of where I think I get stuck.
Okay, so basically what got me here isn't going to be what's going to get me there, right? Like that kind of adage is where you are at with all of this.
Yeah, as one example, like I've hired a EA project lead. She's been with me since November. I had a virtual assistant before then, but this new girl, she's quite good. She's excellent actually, and she's in the same city that I am. But I've had trouble like trusting her. Like I know she's supposed to manage my email, and she does, but I can't help but open every email that comes through during the course of the day and I let her respond to them. But it's just like that's an example of letting go of like I shouldn't even be in there. Like just see, but it's like I can't stop myself.
Got it. So just basically continuous evidence of this pattern that if I let go, even though I logically know that is the thing I need to do to get to the next level, every time I attempt to do that, internally, it always feels like an anxious part of me pops up to stop that. Like I logically know I need to do this, but it doesn't feel good to actually do that. Is that accurate as far
Yeah,
as what your
I
experience is
that's
like?
that's very accurate. As I kind of feel like if I don't keep my like hands on the steering wheel, I is going to crash. That everything's going to come crashing down. Like it's just that faith, basically, of like I feel confident that the business is going to grow and scale, but it's almost just the faith of letting the universe take care of it a little bit is like letting go of control that is quite hard.
Okay, so even just in what you just shared, there's an inherent belief that kind of creates the lens through which you view not just the world, because you mentioned the whole like anxiety around flying, right? But also the decisions in your business, right? And basically comes down to, and this is my words kind of hearing what you were saying. So everything will come crashing down if I don't have it in my control.
Yeah, because I mean I kind of think even though I have a amazing team, logically I know they're not the owners of the business and I can't expect them to care about it as much as me being the full owner of the business. So I always think, well, I can't. like I trust them, but I can't 100% trust them because they're gonna, like they're young, they're a young team, they're in their 20s, they don't have a lot of work experience, and plus, I don't think they care as much as I do. That's my belief.
Fair. And I mean, you are right. They shouldn't care as much as you because it's fundamentally
It's a
your
job.
business, right? So that's totally fine. I think what I would just want to bring you back to is if there's an inherent belief, an inherent worldview that is essentially subconscious for you right now. Like it is the lens through which you view everything. So everything will come crashing down if I don't have it in my control, right? And that feels true to you. Do you
Mhm.
see how that lens paints everything in an anxious, basically light? Because anytime you start to let go of anything, by definition, that your brain is using to view that situation, it has a risk inherent in it that it's going to come crashing down because you're not directly involved.
Yeah, that it seems kind of counterproductive and exhausting to go through the world with that lens. Because even if I try to control everything, I can't. I can't control other people. I can't control the economy. There's so many things that none of us can control. So it's kind of silly in a way that I even try to, but it still is that relief of, well, I'm going to control everything I can control. But I don't, it makes it sound like I wouldn't be great to work with, and maybe I'm not. I don't know. It's making me wonder. Maybe I'm driving my team crazy. I resist the urge to send them emails all the time. Like if I have a question, I'll just put it on my list for when I meet with them. But maybe they can feel this anxious energy or lack of trust, perhaps.
Okay. So in those instances, like I always go back to, well, let's first optimize 100% of your 50% that you might bring to any interpersonal interaction, meaning you don't control what the team feels like. Yes, you can influence that because how you show up is going to be, correlational to that. But fundamentally, let's focus on you, who you are, and what you bring to the table first, because that is within your direct control. Okay. So, number one, if you see that you have this paradigm that everything will come crashing down if I don't have it in my control, okay, do you see that as being something that if I don't let go of it, I'll be able to operate with more trust and ease and peace inside of my business?
Do I believe that if I did let go, I would have more ease and peace in and within my business, is what you're saying?
Yes, or put a different way is like who you are right now that harbors that belief and identity. Do you think that's going to get you to where it is that you want to go?
No, definitely not. It's a hard thing to switch though, but I don't think it's the way I need to operate. No.
Okay, perfect. So why is it hard to switch? Basically being like, what have you tried? Because you seem to be pretty self-aware of it. Like, what have you tried to do to switch this?
Well, I do delegate quite a bit. Like I think of my HR manager, I give her a lot of autonomy to work with clients directly. And, I'm really not involved heavily in the delivery process, just in the review process. So I probably trust her, like I've worked with her the longest, so I trust her quite a bit. Um, but I mean, that's it. That's all that comes to mind when I think of what I've done to try to shift this.
Okay, perfect. So basically, and you can correct me if I'm wrong in terms of like you didn't understand the question or I miscommunicated it, but so this is what I'm going to reflect back to you. So the essence of the question was if right now your brain holds this paradigm, this belief, this lens that everything will come crashing down if I don't have it within my control. Okay, if that is the belief that your brain holds as the base through which you view all decisions, right? When I ask you, okay, well, have you done or attempted to do anything to like let's just say eliminate that particular belief, right? Where your brain went to was, well, yeah, I tried to out strategize it. Like I tried to get better at the process out there. right?
Mhm.
But it's like the process out there is going to be fundamentally distorted by that lens to begin with. So curious, like how does that land for you if I reflect that back?
Yeah, and it makes sense, like how I communicate, my interactions with others, every all of that's informed by your beliefs and how you show up. And I think of a conflict I had recently with this HR manager. And the short version is I reviewed a document that was an old version. I thought it was the final version, and I had some hard feedback for her. And then she gets on the phone with me and she's really emotional. Like, if you're going to give me that type of feedback, at least review the right document. And we since have had a good conversation and I think we're in a good place like a couple of weeks later. But it came down to she felt like I didn't trust her and that, the fact that it didn't occur to me of asking her, do I have the right version of the document? And I just immediately jumped to, oh, she doesn't care. Like, look at this. Like, this is a mess. Like, she's checked out. Like she's checked out right now, and it caused a conflict. She was really upset, and I was distracted that week because I had a lot of stuff going on personally. Like my uncle was sick, and et cetera, et cetera. But still, I think this belief was kind of the root cause of it.
Okay, perfect. So tell me your connection on how this belief was the root cause of it.
Letting go of control. So it was a proposal that she was responding to, and to win some more work. And I always think of, and I think there's some truth to this, but I always think of the team doesn't want us to win a ton of new work because it's just more work for them to deliver. Even though, there's bonuses and stuff, it's still more work for them to deliver. So they're not going to try super hard to create the best response. So me not trusting that this person who's never shown otherwise, that they're always going to put their best foot forward and give me their best product forward, but immediately just that kind of lack of trust and fear of letting go of control, I think that's where it showed up.
Got it. So because fundamentally a part of me isn't comfortable trusting, it created a ripple effect where basically I was too focused on what I had to contribute, where I was painting everybody else as not trustworthy, and therefore I made a decision, I took an action that actually had the opposite effect of what I wanted. Is that sort of what it is that you're getting at?
Yeah. And I'm thinking too of another example, a non-work example where this came up. But I don't think it's hard to completely isolate it because there's a little bit of truth in how the other person contributes to some of this sometimes. So I don't think it's like, black or white. But
Mhm.
do you want me to share my other example?
So before you do that, I just do want to comment on one piece that you mentioned there. So yes, none of these are in a vacuum or isolated towards you, right? Like it's not like a judgment call where it's like, look at all the things you did wrong, right? What I'm more reflecting back your way is when the 50% that you contribute to the interaction is distorted by these particular beliefs around control, lack of trust, can't let go, then it basically muddles and distorts the situation, the interaction, the delivery, etc. So like we're both starting. So the situation then is like well, we're both starting on muddled ground to begin with,
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Yeah, and
Okay.
it probably completely shapes that next interaction too, if that's still the lens that you're seeing the world through.
Correct. So like that's an example in terms of how this paradigm and this belief creates ripple effects as far as your interactions with other people. But then the beginning part of this conversation was basically about the decisions and the state of mind that it puts you in as the leader and the CEO of your business, right?
Mhm.
Because whatever decisions you make are going to also come from that distorted place where I'm kind of letting go of everything, which then has the ripple effect. Well, then I kind of get the
Mhm.
result that I want from everybody else. I internally want people to have autonomy, but there's a part of me that's really anxious about letting go of everything. Well, what are your employees going to do? Well, they're going to concede to the thing that keeps them the safest, which is just kind of honor whatever it is. Maybe not what you're saying that you want, but what your actions say. So they're going to hedge their bets and give you the least amount out of them as possible, right? And I'm not at all saying that the opposite of that will not yield any mistakes. It will, but it comes down to what is it that you are fostering? Like, are you fostering something where eventually you'll have an environment that is
Mhm.
one of trust and leverage, or are you one of fostering where I'm only going to let go enough that I can still kind of hold on to it to at least some degree, right?
Yeah.
And it's like which path, which distortion, which driver is going to allow you to create the kind of business that allows you to live more of the life you want to live. Okay, so
Yeah, I'm
what
causing my own
lands for you with all
problems.
of that?
Yeah, because I'm thinking as you're saying that of me asking an employee to respond to an email, and they always send me the draft to review before they send it. And uh, like they could just respond to it. I don't need to approve the draft to every, maybe some emails, but not every email. So they're probably hedging their bets of, I got to make sure she's okay with this before I send.
Correct. So if you look at that example, it's like what is reality communicating back to me? Well, it's communicating to me that I have to control everything.
Mhm.
Reality is actually reflecting back to you the exact thing that you subconsciously believe because your employees clearly see, well, when I don't ask to approve the draft, then I get reprimanded in some sort of way. Whether that's, like you actually want to reprimand them or the feedback is actually constructive and like that is secondary to what is the fundamental baseline with which everything's operating. So now the end result of that is you are the bottleneck to the growth because you only have so much bandwidth with which you can actually make effective decisions on. So
Yep.
what lands for you with all of this?
If I'm the bottleneck, I need to learn how to let go some more. Like I have, when you start off a business, you're the only one doing everything. So I feel like I've let go of so much over the past few years, but there's more that I need to let go of is what is landing.
Okay, perfect. So now how do you define letting go of?
Uh, Knowing that they're going to do something different than the way I would do it. And that's probably okay because as long as they achieve the outcome that we're looking for. Um, and if I get involved, it sometimes when I get involved, I just get confused because I'm like, well, what was your thinking process? And it's just, they frame it up a different way. And it's not that it's wrong, but often if I get involved, I'm like, well, can we do it this way? Because I'm giving them my thinking process. And it's probably creating more work. Well, definitely creating more work for them, but it's not always necessary. Like what they have is probably fine 3 out of 4 times.
Okay. So if you were to remind or rewind back your answer, do you think that answer was a tactical answer or was that a personal, this is how I need to let go of as a person and as a leader? Like, where is the root of your answer?
It was probably more tactical, but I have a better example for you that I think will get to more of how I need to show up as a leader.
Hmm.
Um,
Go
so
ahead.
this is a friendship that I've known this person for over a year, and we just got busy and had talked for a while, and then when I was talking to them through text like a month ago, they're like, "Oh yeah, like would love to see you in person." Like really we got to get together. And then it didn't happen. I reached out to them like, yeah, you mentioned you'd like to meet up. That sounds great. Like, yes, we should. Didn't happen. And like my definition of trust is consistency over time. So if someone says they're going to do something and they don't do it, it breaks my trust. And I think that's a good definition of trust. So yesterday I sent them a text and just said, I'm mad at you. Like you basically broken my trust. They were completely confused and asked me why. And I'm like, well, you didn't follow through. Like you, and they like they mentioned, I've been traveling the past 2 out of 4 weeks and I was traveling 1 week and they had their reasons, but I don't know if I jumped too quickly just to not trusting them, like, and to have that discussion. As I kind of feel like people should follow through. So I kind of feel like, well, they did break my trust. That's how I was feeling. But now, in light of this conversation, I'm thinking, would another person have felt like that strongly about it? I'm not sure.
Okay. So, A, I applaud you for kind of allowing yourself the inner space and the presence to kind of see, okay, well, where else is this showing up in my life? And I actually agree that is a good example. Um, so it seems like there's also a protective element to this part of you that needs control because it's very sensitive to what it might mean if people break your trust. Like it's
Yeah,
very trigger happy.
they go from here to here very quickly.
Correct. Which is a great way subconsciously to protect you from being disappointed. Because if I right away just bring people down to like another notch, then that's just who they are. Like I can kind of discount them. That is less of a sting than people that I had trust in have disappointed me. Therefore, internally that means
True.
something about
Yeah,
me.
and I even remember when I heard from this person like a month ago, I told myself, I'm like, they're gonna let you down. I know they're not reliable. Like, don't let yourself be like upset by this person when you don't hear from them and they don't meet up with you in person. And then that happened. I was like, see, like that's exactly what I knew would happen.
Right.
So yeah.
So basically, this part of you is now scanning the world consistently to confirm this belief that people fundamentally let me down.
Yeah, I didn't realize that until this conversation. Um, yeah, that's not, I don't want to be like that. That's not a good way to operate because people probably feel that, right? And they just, yeah, they probably, even if I don't say that to them, they gotta feel that.
So again, I just want to acknowledge you for allowing yourself to go there because it's never fun to kind of admit these things to ourselves because the easiest person to lie to is ourselves. So, I
Mhm.
applaud you for being able to hold that polarity. And I think you are beginning to unpack how much of these limiting beliefs and narratives actually color your experience of the world, right?
Mm.
So in the initial one, we kind of pointed out, was like everything will come crashing down if I don't leave it in my control. But similarly, like people let me down, like, or people are in generally going to let me down, right? Well, that's going to color personal relationships. That's going to color business relationship, client relationships, employee relationships. If that is the fundamental lens through which your brain views all interactions, like in that one you just described, it's like it was preemptive. Like I was anticipating this person to let me down, and then I looked for evidence that they did let me down. But in hindsight, that evidence may or may not have been premature. Like there's some element of truth to it, but maybe I kind of overshot my reaction to it. So just even before I go on, like what lands with that reflection?
Yeah, I I think like what I think of when you say that is I've been really focused on building relationships because I've worked so much and I just haven't made enough time for that personally or even professionally in some cases. So I've been taking action to focus on that. Like I do a sponsored founders lunch where my company buys lunch for like 4 to 6 founders once a month as a force function to do that. And I've been doing other things in my personal life on that regard. But the funny thing is that I'm thinking now, like, well, it's good to spend time on it, but if your beliefs are, not supportive to build trust with other people, you're not going to build a good relationship with people if that's how you're kind of viewing the world.
Correct. And I mean, I would add the nuance to that is like the I will not build good relationships that generally in this context, when I'm working with clients that have these types of patterns, the context is basically one of intimacy, meaning like the depth of the connections that I will build will always be more superficial than I may deep down want to, because these protective parts always filter out that connection, right? Because a big part of trust is there's a vulnerability to it,
Yeah.
right? There is the reason that trust is scary and that vulnerability is scary is because it has an inherent risk that something can go wrong, right? And
Mhm.
that is like it's a very real risk. And protecting yourself from that risk also means paying the cost of like low depth or lower depth
Mhm.
connections,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And that
true.
means for you in terms of how much fulfillment you get out of the relationships, it means obviously depth with the other people and how much connection they have with you. Um, so it's kind of like basically the pie that you are building is very limited by these beliefs, right? Like it could expand and be much bigger, but
Mhm.
like this is kind of the zone of safety around it.
Yeah. It's funny because I train leaders on this. I understand vulnerability-based trust, and no one likes to make themselves vulnerable. But I think like some people have an even harder time doing that. So even my communication style is D dominant if you've ever done the DISC
Hmm.
communications assessment. And that's one of the big fears of D's of not trusting people or being taken advantage of, making themselves vulnerable. Those are the big ones for the D. So it's like I don't even know if I see opportunities to do that when I'm having a conversation with someone. Like I know it's an important thing to do, but I don't even think I think of like, well, how can I make myself vulnerable in this conversation?
Right. So I guess what I'm hearing from you is this desire for more, right?
Mhm.
Like you mentioned initially on the business side of things, where it's like, I really want to be a different kind of leader. This is not sustainable to continuously like outwork all of my problems. I want more peace of mind instead of having to like constantly be so hyper vigilant and like worry about everything that's gonna go wrong. I want to have more trust. I want to have more depth. I want to have more essentially surrender in my interpersonal interactions with all the other people. So like I can hear the underlying desire for more.
Yeah, no, I
There.
definitely do. I
Good.
definitely do have that.
Good. So my question to you then would be, okay, so this desire exists. You're aware that if I hold these beliefs, it's going to be very hard to actually manifest this desire in a way that feels good and feels safe and feels secure. So do you have like do you understand the nature of the gap? And what I mean by that is every time I've asked you, okay, have you attempted to kind of solve these problems, your brain went to a tactical solution. And I guess my question to you then is like, do you think this is something that you can out strategize or outthink?
No, but the only way I know how to build new beliefs, like I have a OneNote file on my phone, and I'm always adding, like I call it belief collecting. I'm always adding new beliefs that I want to have. So if I have a fear, like if I think, I'm not any good at sales because I've been working hard at getting better at sales, I'll write a new belief, say, I am able to close deals every day. And I'll read through my beliefs. So they're in all like personal, professional, all facets of my life. And I just curate a new belief and I really like do my best to believe it. That maybe I'm missing something. Maybe that's tactical too, but that's the only way I know how to shift beliefs.
Perfect. So that tactic, which to some degree I actually use similar methods even in my own coaching, right?
Mhm.
But if you explore that, so is that an emotionally driven tactic or a cognitively driven tactic?
Both, I think, like because sometimes I'll create a new belief when I'm feeling a fear, for instance. Or sometimes I'll just see something I like. I'm like, oh, I want to add that to my belief list. So I think it's both emotional and cognitive.
Okay, perfect. So how is it emotional in that case?
If I'm feeling stressed out about something and like a fear, then I'll create a new belief. like that I think will support me taking action, for instance. I don't know, does that answer your question? I'm not sure.
So the question was, okay, how is that emotional? And where your brain went to is basically answering, well, no, I will create a new belief, which is basically means I will create a new statement that is more positive than the one that I've
Hmm.
currently been aware of thinking. And by creating that statement, I have now created a new belief. Okay. That's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm hearing.
Exactly. So if
Okay.
I think to myself, like, oh, I suck at building strong relationships, I'll create a new belief that says, oh, people enjoy being around me and want to connect with me. And that makes me feel better when I read that new belief.
Okay. Perfect. So that makes me feel better in the moment. Okay. Now, is that relief or is that an embodied experience of living that belief?
It's not an body experience of living it. No,
Okay.
but it does make me feel better.
Okay. Perfect. So just like working harder relieves your anxiety,
Hmm.
writing out a better thought relieves the cognitive dissonance of having that thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that actual change or is that a coping mechanism based on relief?
Um, It maybe it depends on the belief because it does encourage me to take action that I might not take, but it in some cases it doesn't work for sure because I
Hmm.
get stuck in my thinking patterns like anyone else. Uh, so it might work in some cases and not in others.
Okay, perfect. So when you
Mhm.
described, okay, I will have a tactical solution, like I won't, I know I shouldn't go into the emails, but like I can't help myself, I just do.
Mhm.
Is that a thinking problem or is that a feeling problem that results in that action?
That's a feeling problem. Yeah. Because
Okay,
I and like it's not unwarranted completely because like I want to see what opportunities are coming through my email box that we're responding in a fast enough manner. But maybe I don't need to do it like as soon as the email comes in. Maybe I just do a quick scan at the end of the day. But it makes me feel like, okay, I know where everything is at.
right. So you just literally came up with the tactical solution to that particular scenario. And oh yeah, but really the reason why I did it was there was a urge to relieve this anxiety of like not knowing,
Yeah, that's
i.e.,
what it comes down to. Yeah.
right. Okay, perfect. i.e., if the inherent subconscious belief is that I need to be in control, otherwise things come crashing down, that's
Mhm.
going to create anxiety in your body. It's going to create the feeling of anxiety in your body. That feeling of anxiety is what drives the actions that you are taking. And the actions that you are taking are indicative of the results that you are getting. So right now, the results that you are getting that you described at the beginning are ones of a lot of overwork, a lot of stress, and not as much depth and intimacy in the interactions that I have. Okay. So if you now drive that backwards, okay, well, it's driven by a bunch of different actions and decisions that you've made. And then the fundamental piece that kind of starts all of that off is that feeling of anxiety that drives it all. Okay. And the reason that I stress this is a lot of well-meaning, smart entrepreneurs like yourself will dive into tactics and modalities and, whatever tools that play to their gifts, which is, well, I'm smart, so therefore I will just come up with a new thought, a new belief. Since it gives me relief and that feedback is immediate, it must mean that something has worked.
Hmm.
Yes, something did work to give you the relief, but the core of what it is that you are experiencing is actually driven subconsciously. And the way that you know that is if you have feelings where you're like, well, I know what to do, but I can't seem to do it, or I can't seem to do it consistently. Okay, that's an indicator that what's driving you is a subconscious feeling pattern. Okay. Or I understand this logically, but I can't seem to like change it, buy into it, or like really, really believe it. Like I know I have no reason not to trust people, but like I don't actually fully embody it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's an indicator that all of your attempts to change are very good attempts to change at the conscious level, but the subconscious level requires a different set of tools. It requires an emotional set of tools, emotional reprogramming, and emotional healing. And the freedom that you seek is going to be getting better and or having somebody facilitate emotional feeling or healing at that level. Because you already have the conscious one
Mm.
set, right?
It's
But
almost like the brain calling BS on like you have the conscious tactical way of, well, here's what I'm going to do to get that relief. But then if you don't really, like you say, embody it or the emotional belief at your core, you're not going to get a different outcome completely, is I think what you're saying.
yes, that's exactly it. And you can actually test this for yourself. So, for example, if I asked you, are you a thief? What's your answer?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Do you have any issues not stealing things, shoplifting, whatever?
Yeah, you can't do that. It's just not right. Like that's a values thing.
Right. So, like, if you walk into a store, do you have to psych yourself up not to like steal anything?
Oh, no, no.
Okay. What does your body feel like in that scenario? Like, does it feel completely neutral to just be like, yeah, of course I don't steal. Why would I steal? Like, if you tune into just that sentiment, I know it's a silly example, but just kind of roll with me. What does
Yeah.
your body feel like thinking about stealing?
I think it just makes me feel like tight. Like I just kind of clench up and think that would be not a good feeling of having to live with that. Like it just makes me feel stressed out.
Okay, perfect. So to think about stealing makes me feel stressed out and clenched. Now, if you think about just going to the store normally as you do, and I know you're never really going to think of stealing, like how does that feel?
Just neutral, just going to the store, maybe.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's something I don't even have to think about because it's totally not a part of who I am.
Yeah.
Okay. So, who you are is somebody that subconsciously, and you said it yourself, has values
Mhm.
that like I'm an honest person, I don't steal. When I live those values in an embodied sense, I am completely neutral to the degree that it doesn't even cross my mind consciously.
Hmm.
When I think about going against those inherent subconscious beliefs, right away there's tension in my body. There's anxiety in my body. Okay. Now, if you take that same, in this instance, last 30 seconds lived experience, and you now apply it to trust, right? When you start to act against the beliefs that you inherently hold around trust, right? People will let me down if I don't have control over it. It's all going to come crashing down. You try to act against those beliefs. The feeling that you feel inside of your body, is it more similar to the neutrality you feel around being
Mhm.
you and not stealing, or the feelings you had around thinking about yourself stealing?
Yeah, it makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's more similar to the former of just feeling like almost sick about it, right? It feels really uncomfortable.
Correct. So what you've just experienced is basically when I try to go against what I subconsciously believe, this is the feelings that I experience in my body. And you can either spend a lot of energy trying to override that, i.e., the tactical solution. Like if I just force myself to not, check emails, yeah, like though you'll be able to do that. But at some point, you will break because your subconscious is a lot bigger than your conscious mind. And then
Mhm.
not to mention when you're tired and you're, stressed and dealing with a lot of things, it's just going to be like, no, no, screw it. Like I gotta just check it,
Mhm.
right? That's the experience of you going against your subconscious beliefs. Okay. So
Mhm.
just before I go on, like what lands for you with all of that?
basically that you can't just out control something that what you're saying is you eventually break, right? And the subconscious beliefs win. Like even if you have a behavior change, it's just exhausting and eventually something needs to give.
Correct. And this is why like when people talk about like willpower has like it's capped at a certain amount because the
Mhm.
willpower is to go against my identity and fundamentally what it is, like how I view myself, right?
Mhm.
You don't have to try very hard or at all to not steal. It is just fundamentally who you are. There is no energy that's needed to do that. If you were to steal for whatever reason, you would have to exert a lot of energy to go against those
Mhm.
positive beliefs, right? It's the same experience you're having on the business side of things, where you have to exert a lot of energy to actually trust and let go,
Yeah.
right? And you're like everything that the more that you wanted is essentially when you can eliminate those subconscious beliefs to not operate anymore, what you would get then is the neutrality of not stealing in how you operate your business. That really is what's on the other side of that.
And what's the process for doing that?
Yeah. So when I do this in my coaching, basically I use an assortment of different tools to do that. It's not necessarily one particular tool to do that, but the grand scheme of things that kind of connects all of those together is first and foremost, you got to find the root of it. Okay, so this pattern isn't authentically you because logically you understand that you can't actually trust people. So somewhere along the way in your life, you concluded there are certain events that you concluded that I can't trust people. I need to be in control because that's what keeps me safe. Okay, so when you find whatever that unique root is for you, you start the process of healing that. And healing that can involve a few different things. On the belief side of things, it can involve like unlearning or reframing that in a way that your system actually believes it. Because sometimes that's the hard part is like, well, okay, I know this event didn't mean this, but like I still can't buy into it. So finding a way to like actually bust that in a way that your system can believe it. If there are emotions stuck around it that haven't been released, they're going to create a conflict internally for you. And that's kind of what I was getting at is like,
Mm-hmm.
if a part of you wants, like, if a part of you believes that people can't be trusted, it's going to be very hard to trust them. And that's always the conflict. A part of me wants more ease and flow, but the other part of me can't let go of, right? So releasing that emotional conflict is also a big part of it. And then three is establishing a sense of safety and security as far as your nervous system is concerned, right? And this is kind of like why I was asking you neck down. I
Mm-hmm.
know you intellectually understand is like, what does your body feel around it? So right now, like your body doesn't feel safe, even though logic doesn't make sense to like let go and trust. And there's
Mm-hmm.
various different, practices and processes to establish that trust, but it's something that has to incrementally happen over time because it's basically repeated a certain way of living for like millions of times. Like it's not safe to trust people. You repeat it that millions of times, and you've only forced yourself to trust people thousands of times. So you have to reinforce that with a sense of safety as well. So that's kind of like the broad model
Okay.
of how, in
Yeah.
general, like I would work with stuff like this. So I guess how does all that land for you? Like, what questions do you have with regards to that?
Yeah, it sounds like a big job to rework to rework kind of your operating system in a way that like right down to how did you describe it? Your nervous system of really not feeling that tension or that kind of feeling sick feeling if you really need to trust someone. And I just thinking the irony of it is like I know I'm an excellent coach because I've gotten like, 41 five-star reviews on coaching and people are always looking for coaching, but I'm expecting my clients to trust me as their coach. And like I feel like I do trust them, but just knowing this is all underneath, um, maybe that's why I'm so exhausted after a day of coaching calls too, right? Just because of this fundamental belief.
Correct. And I think the part that I would just want to offer to you for that is none of this is wrong, or like you are not wrong for any of this. Meaning, all of these stress drivers, these negative beliefs, these limitations, they were all picked up in the course of your life because at times that they were picked up, it was the way to stay safe or get through certain situations. Okay.
Mhm.
They're also the masks and the blocks that are on top of your authentic self. Okay. So I just want to stress like that is available to you. And through that authentic self, which is like basically what I call this idea of being the peacefully ambitious CEO,
Mhm.
when you let go of these stress drivers that had inherent gifts because they got you to where you were, right? But you are at the bandwidth capacity to go any further with them. When you can eliminate those and
Yeah.
release the authentic self that's there and be driven by a sense of peace where I can surrender, I trust people, I create leverage, I am enthusiastic about the contributions they provide even without me. Like all of those things then compound into basically a brand new version of you and your life. Right? It's not about necessarily being wrong about this because it's not like you chose any of this. But like what's on the other side is something that you do get to consciously choose, you do get to consciously create. And really, that's where like your business becomes the vehicle for creating a life that you can't buy. Because you can buy employees, you can buy, SOPs and processes and people to set that up. But you can't buy the peace of mind that it's all going to work to get you where you want to go. Like you have to embody that the same way you embody like the not stealing, right? And that's in inner work, inner path, type of thing. So anyway,
That
I
makes
just looked at
sense. That
the
makes
clock.
sense. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I'm just saying because I know you said you had potentially a hard stop, so I just want to make sure that we're respectful of that.
Yeah, she didn't message me back, so I don't know, but we can wrap this up in whatever way you normally do. But just what occurred to me when you were summarizing that is that anxiety serves a purpose, right? It results in me taking action to relieve the anxiety, which has scaled my business. But what you're saying is it reaches that point where it doesn't work anymore because now you're relying on other people to do that more, right? And how you show up as a leader is more important than just getting them to do the task and to do the task right, because that's not really transformational leadership or not going to reach the outcome of the peace of mind and everything else that showing up in the right way and truly believing it, not just saying the right thing, showing up with the right energy and enjoying the process too, I think is what comes to mind.
Correct, right? That's really where it is. And there's like multiple different instances in like today's conversation where it was like clear that you're the bottleneck, right? People come to me to check every single email draft. I have to go check in, what's new in the emails coming in, how much of my work am I actually letting go of, how much autonomy am I actually like all of those pieces fundamentally like this is what you are describing now on the manifestation of the business. Like this is the limitations that my identity at its current state has created, right? So I literally cannot outwork this, otherwise I'm going to exhaust myself. So something has to change. So you already have a good idea because every single time I've asked you a question, you knew right away what the tactical solution was, right? So that's reflective of your skill set. But who you are being is going to sabotage that skill set from being implemented into something that's tangible, real, and can deliver actual results, right? That's really what this process of going from good to great, what got you here won't get you there. It now
Mhm.
has to be applied to you and like who you are being, right? And that's the beautiful part about it because if you change that, you change the primary input into the business, and now the output is going to have a much better chance of delivering basically this idea that I call like you want your business to fuel the life that money can't buy, right? That's really what it's about.
It's like
And
adding horsepower like to it, right? It's kind of like because all the tactics are right. Like I think technically I know exactly what to do, what the strategy is. Like that's all so easy to me, but it's just amping up the horsepower so it has more impact.
Correct. Not just amping up the horsepower, but also changing the quality of the fuel,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
right? Okay, so what do you think I mean when I say that?
The quality of the fuel. So the energy behind it of how you communicate and how you feel and kind of removing that belief that everything's going to come crashing down because the fuel is just going to like carry you forward at light speed almost.
Okay. So I can see kind of the connections being formed. So dive a little bit deeper into like if you have like if you sit with that, right, the quality of the fuel will be different. The energy with which I approach these things will be different. Okay. Tell me more about what that means for you as far as the vision on what's possible for you.
Yeah, I it's a hard question to answer, but I just picture like different words coming out of my mouth, a different maybe pace of speaking because I feel like a little bit of a frantic energy of like we got to get through this and this. We're a startup, like we need to go faster. I'm always telling the team we need to go faster. And I still do think we do need to go faster, but maybe it's just over indexing on that now. Like sometimes it's okay to go slower. Like that's okay too. And I bet you if I said that, they'd probably fall out of their chair. Like they'd be like, did she actually say that? Like, especially if I said it and sounded like I meant it. So I think it just changes like fundamentally who you are if the quality of the fuel is better.
Correct. And how would that impact your life?
I don't know. In a good way, but I can't even really imagine right
Okay.
now. It just seems a little bit foreign.
Okay. Well, maybe that's the first step is like actually just allowing yourself to even imagine what might my life be like if I was driven more by peace and less by stress? What would that look like for you?
It would be more fun. Yeah, because I kind of like I can see all these connections popping into my head now. So I just assume I'm like I'm 47 years old and I've just come to terms. I'm like, well, I will die alone and that's okay. I'm fine with that. Like I'm perfectly fine with that. But it's kind of like all these other beliefs tied to trust and relationships, etc., that are not really necessarily true. I don't know my future. I don't, but it's me trying to control the future of just accepting what I think would be the worst scenario, right? So it's, I don't know. It's like that's what comes to mind.
Okay. And how does it feel to even just like explore that, even in just like the little bit that you did there? Because initially it was like, oh, I have no idea. And then suddenly things start to open up.
Yeah, well, it gives me some hope, right? Like it makes me feel more optimistic and more less stressed out about the future if I actually believe that and lean into that. Like it kind of takes the weight off a little bit, my shoulders.
Okay, good. So what if that was more of how you operated day to day?
Yeah, that would be good. That would be the ideal for sure.
Okay. Do you believe that that's available to you?
Yeah, I do. But it just sounds like I mean, it's not like a light switch.
Yeah, it's not a light switch. The process towards it is what I was describing to you before about subconsciously removing all these stress drivers, getting your nervous system to be okay with all of this stuff. But it starts with first understanding that like I don't actually have to be this way,
Yeah.
right? Like that this is not a life sentence. It takes a level of like courage and desire to want to step out of this, but you are previewing now, like just beginning to preview what's available to you on the other side of this. And it's not just business results. It's like you said, it's a more fun, enjoyable experience of my life across the board.
Yeah, it's like more fulfillment.
Correct. Correct. So, do you think that's a journey worth going on to get there?
Well, yeah, that I mean, I would be foolish probably to say no to that.
Okay. So I wish I could take you on that journey in just this one podcast episode, but unfortunately, I can't. Um, but in terms of just kind of being here to really analyze, okay, what's the blocks in my current situation? What's the path forward in terms of where I need to go? Like, are you more clear on that part of it now?
Yeah, no, thank you. This was really, really helpful. I didn't quite know what I signed up for today when I came on this podcast. And this was actually very hard for me to, you know, share this about myself. And I didn't really, I was not aware of this as a blocker for me. And so thanks, no, because this is very enlightening.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and I hope it was a good surprise and not a terrible one. So yeah, definitely. I applaud you for that. I acknowledge you for it. I know it's not an easy thing to do. Um, so if that kind of gives you more insight, that's good. Anything else that I can answer for you before we kind of close?
What do you suggest I do with this new insight
You
the next few weeks or
work with me so that we can eliminate this in 6 to 12 weeks, as opposed to taking a lifetime to do it. But jokes aside, the process that I described to you before, right, with regards to like the subconscious clearing, the nervous system, etc., like that is the path to eliminating these patterns and embodying them. More awareness, more reading, more journaling, more thinking about these things will only give you more awareness. Okay, so like the path for you lies basically the other way to put it, like this is a full contact sport, meaning it takes a decision to really kind of wrestle with the parts of us that maybe we didn't want to wrestle with for a long time in order to heal this. It's not necessarily the funnest thing in the world, but the payoff is always there because everything that you described, I'm like, what my life could look like without this, that's what's available to you on the other side. And I know that's like a non-answer is what I'm saying. Like I can't do this stuff for you like in one
no, it makes sense.
podcast, but that essentially is the most honest answer that I can give you at this point in time. So any other questions, comments, or concerns about any of that?
No, that makes sense.
Okay, perfect. So while you then close us off and let everybody know, where to find you, who's the best person to find you, like floor is yours for that.
Okay, perfect. PowerUp Leadership is the name of my company, Susan Power, and our website is powerupleadership.ca. And folks can find me on Instagram, Coach Susan Power, as well as on LinkedIn. And really, our focus as an organization is to empower teams to realize their potential. So we do a lot of really customized leadership development programming, which is training, coaching, helping teams have difficult conversations, give performance feedback, work-life integration, and really a lot of the challenges new people leaders face when they are leading a team for the first time.
Okay, beautiful. Well, as always, all of that will be included in the show notes. But Susan, thank you very much for being on, being vulnerable in this way. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.